everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, I'm going to focus on giving you a best class setup for all the SMGs while I rank them from worst to best in Call of Duty Black Ops 4 after that 1.19 update. In case you guys didn't know, they went ahead and made a change to the way the mechanics of the weapons work, converting them from regular ballistic mechanics with projectiles to a hit scan system that has been used in every Call of Duty prior to Black Ops 4. So this change is overall seen as a buff to pretty much every SMG in the game. In addition to that, they went ahead and nerfed the Switchblade and the Daemon, which we'll talk about once we get to them. This video was actually highly requested after I did the video about ranking all the rifles in Black Ops 4, so I definitely appreciated all the support on that video. If you do enjoy this video or find it helpful in any way, please remember to hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 1,500 likes on the video. I know it's a little bit aggressive, but I think you guys can help me out with that. And if you are brand new to the channel or you're part of the 72% that haven't yet subscribed and you're actually looking to find your way back to the channel, make sure you hit that red subscribe button, turning it to gray with notifications on by ringing that bell. So whenever I do one of these ranking videos, I go back through each of these weapons and kind of get a feel for how they fit back into the meta. So when it comes to the SMGs, I pretty much broken into three categories. You got overpowered, which is the Daemon, and then you got the balanced section, which is the Saug, the Switchblade, the Cordite, the Spitfire, and the MX9, and then the needs a buff is the GKS. And for those of you that don't really quite understand how the meta works, is pretty much in Black Ops 4, rifles dominate the game. If you're using a rifle, you're going to be pretty much better off than using almost any other SMG. Obviously, there's certain scenarios if you're at point blank range or movement wise or whatever the case is, but in general, if you're using a rifle, you can dominate a lobby much more effectively than you can with an SMG. And we'll start off with what I think is the worst SMG in the game, and that is the GKS. And for the GKS, I run a reflex sight, quick draw, long barrel, and then I run extended mags. And as far as gear goes, you're either going to run ComSec device, stim shot, or acoustic sensor. But for perk 1, you're either going to run flak jacket or scavenger. Perk 2, you're going to either run gung ho or dexterity. And perk 3, you're either going to run dead silence or ghost. And that's keeping in mind that all these class setups are geared towards core game modes. So in my opinion, the reason why this is the best class setup for the GKS is because it really doesn't have any kind of recoil. So grip 1, grip 2 are a complete waste in my opinion. And with the change to hit scan, there's really no reason to ever run long barrel 2. Anyone who has long barrel 2 on their class, it is a complete waste and you should not be using that attachment ever. And the main reason for that is because if you run long barrel 1, it's going to increase your 6-shot kill range from about 37.5 meters up to over 60, and now long barrel 2 is going to increase that range even further, which is pretty pointless. You should never get in a gunfight beyond 60 meters in this game. So obviously the GKS is very usable. If you put it in the right player's hands, they're going to dominate. But to be fair, you could put almost any weapon in the right player's hands and they're still going to be able to dominate with it. So just because you see the GKS do well doesn't necessarily mean it's a good weapon. So the GKS actually has two flaws in my opinion. The first one being that its 5-shot kill range is only about 7.5 meters. I would hope at some point they decide to double that, maybe up to 15 meters, or play around with it, maybe 12.5 meters, and see what works, because 7.5 meters is almost nothing in this game. And then the other part of it is if you ever run up against body armor users or try to wallbang someone hiding up in a certain area, you're not able to do it. This gun has 0 bullet penetration and it doesn't have FMJ. So the second change I'd like to see is completely remove long barrel 2, swap it out for FMJ, and then I think this weapon could be very viable with both of those changes, and it'll move from needs a buff to completely balanced in my opinion. And the number 6 ranked weapon is going to be the MX9 with stock, hybrid mags, long barrel, rapid fire, and the gear is like I previously mentioned. As far as the perks go, perk 1 or perk 3 of the ones I mentioned previously. And in terms of gear and perks, it's pretty much going to be the same for all the weapons throughout the list. So for whatever reason, the MX9 is one that actually feels like it got buffed even though it didn't have any other buff besides changing to hit scan. I think previously you would get a lot more ghost bullets where it felt like you were hitting someone directly, but you just wouldn't get any hit markers. It felt like the bullets were going right through them. And I think part of that had to do with the way the ballistic profiles work for this weapon. Maybe it just fired slower bullets depending on its caliber size or whatever the case. I don't know. But with hit scan, it feels very crisp, very clean. You're able to take out enemies, and the movement you get with stock is pretty insane, combined with that hybrid mag, rapid fire. It all kind of meshes together really well, and this weapon, for whatever reason, feels like it got a bigger buff than it says it did. So something to keep in mind about this balance tier is that the weapons are fairly close. You can kind of push one up or down just depending on preference. So keep that in mind as I'm going through the list, because my 6 could easily be your 4 just depending on how you'd rank the weapons. So the number 5 ranked SMG is going to be this Spitfire, and I run extended mags, quick draw, stock, and fast mags. And one of the nice things about the Spitfire, it has a very consistent time to kill. You ideally want to be at those closer ranges because once it gets a little bit farther, to be a lot harder to hit your shots. I know I kind of went through a tutorial to make it feel like this weapon has no recoil at all. There's certain different tricks, so if you want to check that out, that'll be linked in the description below. But overall, I feel like this one is a true run and gun type SMG, which sometimes is missing in the game. And I think there's actually two reasons it feels like that. The first being all the different mobility you get with the attachments, and the other one is the time to kill. In this game, we have a little bit slower time to kill, and this one has a fairly consistent time to kill at most ranges. So when you're running and gunning, as long as you can manage that recoil, like I said, you're gonna have a fairly competitive time to kill. And that's not even to mention that this gun has an operator mod called the Wildfire Operator mod that bumps the RPM up to 1500 rounds per minute, which is just insane. It'll give you one of the fastest time to kills in the entire game at about 200 milliseconds. So if you decide to run it with the operator mod, which is also a good way to go, I just don't think it's the best way to go because it has a little bit higher skill ceiling, meaning that it's a lot more challenging to use, but if you can get comfortable with it, it can be very rewarding to get those kills. The number 4 ranked SMG is going to be the Cordite with rapid fire, long barrel, and the belt feed operator mod. Obviously the gear and the perks carry over from what I've already talked about. So why the operator mod? I know a lot of people go back and forth on this and debate which one's better. Should you use extended mag? Should you use the operator mod? Should you use both? Because some people do that as well. I think at the end of the day, this is the best overall all-around option because it saves you from having to use scavenger. And while saving you from using scavenger, it also makes it so you don't have to run crash in case you decide to go flak jacket. And I don't know how the change affected this weapon, but for the most part, I didn't really notice any kind of difference. I didn't feel like my bullets were registering better or worse or anything like that. Felt like the exact same Cordite before the update, even with that hit scan change. So the reason it makes it this high up on the list, even though it doesn't feel any different, is because it was kind of a beastly SMG to begin with. Wasn't quite overpowered. It was on the top tier of the SMGs before the update, and after the update, it's just as top tier as it was before. And I have a lot of fun with this one because I feel like you can rush that much more because you don't have to worry about that reload animation. So for anyone that tends to die very often while doing that reload animation, this might help you out. Or anyone that has kind of stuck with just doing that extended mags and hasn't really experimented with this, I highly recommend it, and you'll see how it kind of plays out once you give it the opportunity. So here's where the biggest change on the list happens, and that's going to be swapping up the Saug and the Switchblade. You guys remember my previous list that I kind of broke this down? The Switchblade was ahead of the Saug because of the huge buff it received. But once they went ahead and nerfed the range, that went ahead and knocked down the Switchblade. So now it still has that same class setup, but it's just not as good as it used to be. And that is Rapid Fire 1, Rapid Fire 2, and Hybrid Mags. And even though it got nerfed and it doesn't feel quite as strong as it used to, this is still my favorite SMG in the entire game. And I think it's because the kills feel rewarding. The same way I talked about with the Spitfire, you can kind of learn to master that Wildfire. And I think the Switchblade's similar to that, whereas the more time you invest in using the weapon, your accuracy will improve and you'll better be able to understand how its recoil pattern works, so you can actually make sure that you hit your shots. And that's the key with this weapon. You're missing shots, you're not going to kill anybody. Even at range, you can hit a lot of shots very accurately, and the time to kill still stays relatively low, but it all comes down to accuracy. Unfortunately, this weapon is locked behind reserves if you didn't unlock it during the event that it was available, so you kind of just got to get lucky and get that MK2 variant, which is very unfortunate, but at least they're adding more bribes into the game to at least increase that chance of you getting that weapon. And it's obviously no surprise that the Saug 9mm ranks number 2 on my list, and the best class setup for that weapon is going to be quick draw, grip, stock, and fast mags, and obviously kind of work out the rest of the gear and the perks. And I think overall a lot of people are fans of the Saug. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm starting to become a bigger fan of it because of the way it works now, and that's because I feel like it's way more consistent with that change to hit scan. Same thing I talked about with the MX9. First, I thought it was kind of a lower tier weapon, but just changing a hit scan makes it so your shots register that much more consistently. And in a game where the time to kill is as long as it is, if you're missing shots, you're almost guaranteed to die. One of the glaring issues I have with this weapon is the ammo capacity. I think if it had hybrid mags instead of fast mags, or extended mags instead of fast mags, it would probably push me to use it more often, because more often than not, a lot of times you're going to get that 1, 2, 3 kills and then you got to reload. You get caught reloading, you're more than likely going to die. And I think that's the biggest issue with this one. I think if it had just maybe 5, 8 bullets more, it would allow you to get more consistent 4 pieces. So now we're going to move on to the most overpowered weapon on this list, and that is the Daemon 3XB. We all know it's broken. We know it supposedly got a nerf. But when you actually look at how the nerf works, it didn't really change the mechanics of this weapon. And when you run that best class setup of high caliber 1, high caliber 2, rapid fire, and hybrid mags, what ends up happening is the time to kill now is about 200 milliseconds. The time before the update was about 150 milliseconds. 50 milliseconds in this game isn't very noticeable, and on top of that, it ends up still being a 2-burst weapon. So even though they did increase the time to kill by 50 milliseconds, when you actually get 2-bursted to the chest, it's gonna feel the exact same. Still gonna feel like you die instantly and you did not have a chance, the same way the Rampart kills, the Auger DMR, the Wildfire, as well as that new Stingray Operator mod, which is completely broken. Flak Jacket is not the save for that one either, but that's a story for a different day. So that's my list of all the SMGs from worst to best. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please remember to hit that like button. If you're brand new around here or you keep coming back for more, please remember to hit that red subscribe button, turning it to gray. We're almost at 90,000 subscribers, and hopefully by the end of the month, with your guys' help, we'll be at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'd be very appreciative of that. Thank you guys for watching. As always, have a great day.